What's going on, guys? Welcome back to today's cold ass video.
Thank you guys for watching. Catch you guys later.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video of Project Midwest. It's Ed behind the camera. I got my brother Justin. So that was probably a little too fast. I'm sure they didn't see you. Anyways, we're very close to getting this thing done, guys. I can feel it. So I said that last year too. So we actually got the oil catch can in place. I think just a quick summary on things. So that's ready to go. All of our lines are kind of like pointing in the right direction. We still need some hose that is still pending to be bought. But in this video, we're gonna be addressing one of the major issues that we're having right now. And I think I found a solution for it. So we're under the car right now. There's the steering rack, there's the sway bar, and there's our oil feeds and return on the oil pan. So as you can see, one of these feeds is grinded down so I could get as much clearance as possible. I did this before coming up with a solution that I'm gonna go over in today's video. So we're definitely gonna replace that because I don't like that it's not as safe as I would like, and still didn't give me the clearance that I was looking for. So as you guys can see, if I drop the sway bar down, we get like no clearance at all. So very unfortunate that our ports are right there. But like I said, I think we're gonna end up modifying the sway bar a tad, and it'll give us exactly what we're looking for. All right, guys, real quick. So here we got the entire sway bar assembly removed, and if we get a little closer up in this area, you guys will see that I already modified it. I didn't get it on camera the first time around because I was still brainstorming. So what we ended up doing is this entire bracket that I'm about to break my spot welds on was sitting a little bit higher. So it was welded on these 4 different points, and I ended up cutting the legs and dropped it a bit so it would give us clearance in this area right here, and this is where our fittings hit. So we need to drop this a little bit more. I would say about 1/2 inch or 1/4 of an inch, and then we should be okay. So I definitely think we can get the clearance out of that. I just have to chop these a little bit more. I was being extra careful the first time around, so it's kind of like one of those things where you don't want to cut too much, and I don't want to mess with like the overall feel and steering of the car. On top of that, we have this enormous thing in there, so it's definitely going to feel different, but hopefully not too far from, I guess, what would you say, like the normal feel and drivability of the car. So just got those 2 bolts removed, and there's our brackets. So this is what it would look like if they were still welded on. So again, just gonna cut here and here, and there, should be all set. Sorry for the noise, guys. The welder is actually cooling down, even though it's about -4 degrees out as I look at my watch. No, it's freezing out here, guys, and we ran out of propane, so excuse the noise. What we're about to do is actually tack weld these again. So I think it's safe to assume that we probably, I would say, reduce the height of maybe like 1/4 of an inch, if not half. So we also have these spot welded nuts on the back that were hitting around this area. So we actually ended up making another hole right here just to get that to clear. And we did the same thing for the other side. So that fits in there nicely. Now what we do, we ended up marking everything. So we have a pretty good idea of where these brackets are supposed to go in terms of like further up front or back. The tricky part here is gonna be getting like the right angle. This also doesn't have to be perfect because if we remember the sway bar is on bushings, so it rotates. So I don't think that'll be too much of a problem. And we can always try it before we weld it completely, you know. So I'm gonna go ahead and spot weld these, and we'll get the sway bar back on, bolt it back on the car, and should be good to go. All right, check it out, guys. Came out pretty good. So everything's tacked on, bolted on. It's not bolted all the way down, but just because we got to fit it real quick. But I'm pretty damn confident that this is gonna fit now. So like I said, I needed about 1/4 of an inch. I think we took more out than that. The only thing that is a little concerning is, I guess in terms of like how much we took out, is the overall angle of this bracket. So I don't know if the tail end is sitting a little bit higher, lower. I'm confident that it's lower, but again, I don't know how much of an impact that'll have overall. But that's why we're gonna find out right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and crawl underneath the car, get this back on, and see where we're at. All right guys, so this is what we got going on. So there's our inlet and outlet on our oil pan, and there's our sway bar. So this is what I mean, look at that. So we've got the clearance now, complete movement, and since we don't have that bulkhead in this area, right where this little ring is, that gives us clearance. It's not a lot, but it's definitely enough. So I think it's safe enough for engine play if there is any. And this other fitting over here, that's really not gonna be an issue. So after that, we're gonna run our lines off to the right-hand side, over this way, and then up and out to where our headers are and where our oil filter is gonna sit. So that gives you guys a pretty good idea. What I am gonna do is go ahead and weld these sway bar mounts now completely down, now that we're all set. And we'll move on to the next phase. For the next part, our dipstick. Like I said, I think I mentioned it in the previous video, or maybe I did not. The placement for the dipstick, I think, is going to be on this side. So what I need to go ahead and do is mark the spot that I think we're going to drill out in the oil pan, and we're going to use this. It's like a sandwich adapter, pretty much, that will allow us to connect our dipstick into the oil pan, since it doesn't have a port for it. And we are gonna have to block off the original one, since we're not gonna use that. So I need to go ahead and climb underneath the car and see exactly where this is gonna sit. I might set the camera off to the side real quick, and then once I have that all situated and stuff, I'll show you guys what the plan is. All right guys, so we got this figured out. So looks like our dipstick is gonna sit right in this little area right here. I am going to climb under the car right now to show you guys what that's going to look like on the bottom side. Got our dipstick, our little flange for fitting, and it's going to thread right into this area. So I need to go ahead and mark this, then we'll drill it out, and after that we should be all set. So probably going to be around this little spot right here. All right guys, making good progress here. So we actually went ahead and removed the sway bar assembly again. So we got the brackets removed and the bar itself that's attached to it. What I'm gonna go ahead and do now is weld these tabs right in this little section right here, and do that for both sides. So once that's done, then we should be all set. Got this whole thing put together, torqued down, and it's good to go. So also went ahead and rattle canned it a little bit, just to make sure that it didn't rust around those areas that we grinded down. And overall, welds and stuff came out pretty solid. So not really a concern there. Not that these are gonna have a bunch of tension and stuff, but everything is definitely safe and solid. So now I think for the next step, unfortunately, this thing does have to come out again. So we got a freaking mess now, guys. So we took everything out, as you guys can see. Engine is suspended over here. So we have our oil pan. So this thing was actually a bit of a challenge, because I wish we would have added this flange first and then added our return lines for our turbos, because ideally this would have been a really good spot over in this area, and then we could have just placed the lines up front. So I had to trim a little bit of the inside on this oil pan. Yes, it looks like shit, but it's going to work. So our flange is right over here, so our dipstick is going to come out over and then towards the front of the engine. So what we have to do now is I think we gotta go ahead and seal this thing up. So take that out. We drilled this out with I think it was like a 40mm hole saw, and so there's our oil ring, our O-ring, and I think, Justin, we just need to put a bunch of like thread lock on here and then tighten the shit out of it, and it's done. Now, so we put a little bit of Loctite on there, blue kind, and over here we got a seal, and it's good to go. So everything looks pretty flush. O-ring is nice and crushed. So all we have to do now is get this back on the engine, and then we should be all set.